Welcome back in. Team number 6 on the countdown. We've had a run of teams with a ton of state titles. No exception here. The Caravan.
Yep.
10 titles to their name. A 300-win coach tracking down the all-time wins record.
Yep.
And a state title game appearance last year for the Caravan. Granted, they ran into the buzzsaw known as
South.
Dave and Sarah's Maine South Hawks.
Yep.
But, you know, real nice. The opening loss to Simeon, I think that surprised people, but less surprising as the season went on and everyone realized
how good Simeon's was.
Simeon's
Good
got
team.
some talent.
They got some good talent.
And then a 35-14 defeat at the hands of St. Rita was probably a little surprising to some people. We were at that Loyola game with the phantom fourth quarter touchdown catch.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to get into that because I know House doesn't want to hear about that as well.
But the Caravan pulled it out in overtime. The big loss here was Michael Banks, but again, this is one of those programs that it seems like you just plug people in that backfield, and they find a way to get it done. Pretty famous name is going to be quarterbacking them this year, Mr. Don Butkus.
Yeah, nephew of some. I'm not even going to disrespect him like that.
Some linebacker.
The all-time greatest linebacker of all time.
Let's not get the Lawrence Taylor argument started.
Anyway, we got him coming in at quarterback. Again, Frank Linty, over 30 years, has set up a system where you can put Skylar King in there, and he's going to be able to run that offense. It doesn't matter who you put in there, and you get someone with a little bit of talent. They had Suchka last year, and
he's all-time school record for rushing as a quarterback.
Yes,
so, I mean,
very good.
Big shoes to fill there.
Big shoes to fill, but, even if you put someone who's less experienced, they're still going to have, with the coaching of Frank Linty, I'm a big fan of his, as you are too, so you're going to always have a good team year in and year out. So you were mentioning to me earlier how, Michael Banks, what game did he get hurt?
De La Salle.
And they just
Smith,
plugged him right in.
Yeah, I mean, They got. If you're playing football at Mount Carmel, if you're going to be a starter at Mount Carmel, you got some ability.
Oh yeah.
And then again, it's just like it reminds me of Remember the Titans. Herman Boone saying, "We run 6 plays." Split
like Novocaine.
Yeah, split fear. Eventually, it's going to work. And that seems to be what Mount Carmel's done over the years. Just might get 4 here, 3 here, but then it's 25.
Bust one. Yep.
And again, if people were able to stop it, they would have done it by now. Yeah. Because it's not like it's not like they were a 5-wide passing team 20 years ago. They've been doing this for years. You can go check the film from 1980.
And Linty will tell you, he's like, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And, he's one of those coaches that really believes in the kids that he, helped to get to his program. And once you're there, you're chosen for a reason. And, you're usually going to have a successful career as a high school football player if you go, play at Mount Carmel. So, they definitely stretched it out last year. A lot of people didn't see them getting all the way to the state championship.
Right. Yeah. Now, how about this for the start of the season? They're not going to lack for talent on the other side of the ball because they got Simeon and Morgan Park in the first 2 games. Those were 2 of the most talented teams in the state last year. Rough for Morgan Park, though. They got Providence and Mount Carmel those first 2 weeks. They might be a little beat up after that Soldier Field showdown.
Oh, yeah.
But that Simeon game, I think that's gonna tell us a lot about somebody.
Well, the game from last year was close. Last year both of the Chicago public schools took the win.
Right.
I think this year is going to be both the Chicago Catholic schools.
Really?
We were talking about Providence. In our earlier preview, I think Mount Carmel is a team that, as you said, take me back or come back 50 years and you can pick one of those teams, you're going to give them a chance. So I see Mount Carmel coming into that Soldier Field game and, paying back Simeon, who also still going to have a great team.
Yeah, I see that as their one loss.
Their one loss? Okay.
That Simeon game. They are, go to my my Bible here, the Rivals recruit list, and it's Jordan Diamond, 4-star O lineman, 6'6", 289. Road grader. It's just unmistakable. I mean, you got a Vontrell Williams, 6'2", 270 pound, 75 pound D tackle from Mount Carmel. I'm not saying the talent's not there, but last year when we watched Simeon play Morgan Park, that looked like an East St. Louis team.
But that's not a good game to compare them to.
No, I understand.
Okay.
But I'm saying but you said you like speed.
I love speed.
Robert Gregory, 6'3", 181.
I do love speed.
6'3", 181, played quarterback. He's going to be a receiver in college, 6'3", 181.
I agree with you. Hold on. And we'll get to Simeon because I have a feeling that's another team we're going to be talking about in the future. But let me say this, though. Though I like speed, experience at coaching, knowing your opponent, coaching will trump speed.
Sure.
Yes, it will.
What happened in the game last year?
Lake Zurich did not have the speed to compare with Simeon. We're talking about Mount Carmel right now. Mount Carmel in the Simeon game, though I think it'll be a good, close game, and I believe we'll be attending that game. I think Mount Carmel has.
I think we're in St. Louis that weekend, aren't we?
Is that the fourth?
It's the first weekend.
Yeah, that's the first weekend. We'll be at that game, the Caravans.
Also, Brandon Greer, top 30 guys going to Central Michigan DB, which that's a kid who you're going to need help from against the Simeons and the Loyolas of the world because they're going to chuck the ball a little bit.
Yep.
And I think that's, as we talked about in the earlier previews, in Illinois, if you chuck it, you got an advantage. So if you got a couple good defensive backs, that's because if you look at this top recruit list, it is linemen, linebackers, running backs, and a couple quarterbacks.
Well, we're definitely known in Illinois for producing our linemen.
Sure.
I mean, we can produce big guys. We're Midwest. It's just one thing that we're known for. When it comes to speed positions, that's definitely not our forte. So, definitely something to look at. Question: you have Frank Lenny, most legendary coach that is still coaching in the state of Illinois, going for that 315 record. What do you think is going to happen with Mount Carmel and the Chicago Catholic League changing? You got Loyola, which is definitely coming up now. Wasn't as much of a factor as before. Brother Rice is a team that's been looking pretty good. I don't know what's necessarily going on in Fenwick, but obviously you always have St. Rita that's the team. So as far as Mount Carmel and what they do, or any coach that comes after, what do you think is going to happen with Mount Carmel?
I'll tell you what I think after a break.
All right.
At Skylar iPrep, at Eric iPrep. Hit us up on Twitter. Tell us what you think on the message boards, and I'll tell you about a potential shift of power in the Catholic schools when we come back on IllinoisPrep.com. Welcome back in, IllinoisPrep.com. Eric Seal, Skylar King. We were talking about specifically Loyola, but just can Mount Carmel continue to be this standard of excellence in the Chicago Catholic? And I think they can, and here's why. Okay. I think that Loyola might win more 50-50 recruiting battles. Like, just that kid whose family, he's not a legacy to anywhere. I think there's more football playing Mount Carmel legacies out there. But that's going to give them the advantage year in, year out over Loyola.
I mean, the competition for recruiting would definitely have to be more between Mount Carmel and St. Rita. Loyola's up north.
Well, no.
What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, you brought up Loyola, but I mean, I think there's people that'll move. When time gets close, if they feel like they have a kid, a son who's is showing some promise, and they're a Mount Carmel legacy. I think they say, let's move a little closer to the city, find a way to get my son to go to Mount Carmel. Yeah. I feel like also then you do have the 50-50 kids. We talked about Malin Jones, Naperville's going to Joliet. I mean, that's not a short trip. So I think kids will make the trip if they think it'll give them and their parents think it'll give them that chance to go play college ball.
Well, if you go to a Chicago Catholic League school, in the blue division, you're pretty good to go for the most part.
Right.
I think with Loyola coming up, St. Rita's always been good. I just feel like it's going to be tough. it's going to be tough. You know, it was always St. Rita and Mount Carmel going back and forth for the title and everything like that. Loyola coming up. The thing that hurts all the Catholic schools is they don't have feeder programs.
True.
They're, you know, like a public school does. You know, Mount Carmel plays at Gately. They don't have their own stadium.
Yeah.
You know, Frank Lindy at the press conference when they were the runner-up last year in the 8A was talking about how their facilities, even Coach Andriano from Montini was talking about the facilities at a private Catholic school are nowhere in comparison to a public school. And so, you know, like we talk about college football and the change has shifted from the Midwest, Notre Dame schools going to the South. I think that, you know, we're slowly going to transfer into, you know, some of these Bolingbrook big suburban schools where they have the money and they have the love for football. You know what I mean?
I think that it's almost like having old money, you know, being like a Kennedy or a Rockefeller. That's what Mount Carmel is. Okay. And they're not, I think it's one of those, yeah, the facilities aren't as good, but I went to Mount Carmel. Yeah. My dad went to Mount Carmel. Yeah. Your grandfather, you're going to Mount Carmel.
I mean,
you're going to Joliet Catholic.
Even when people say it, it's, you know, what school did you go to? I went to JC. I went to Mount Carmel. Like, oh, you're one of those. Yeah. and it's almost like everybody disliked you. I know I did. I disliked people who went to Mount Carmel. Right. Why? Because I didn't go to Mount Carmel, and I wanted to go to a school like Mount Carmel.
You couldn't beat Mount. It was
we could.
Oh no!
No.
Like it's what. Yeah. It's like you don't hate the school that.
No, you don't hate the school
that you thump by 50 every year.
No.
You don't like, and you're jealous of the school that beats everyone else by 50.
Oh, without a doubt. And as a player, I know they do it now. We did it then. We justify it like, oh well, if we could recruit, we'd be just as good. Well, there's a lot of schools that can. And you don't even know their name.
Right.
So it's not just the fact that you can. It's definitely the talent, the people put in the right, people in the right positions and everything like that. So
I mean, just if you look at their conference, or their schedule, Westchester St. Joe. Mm-hmm. You know, good basketball program. They can recruit, but you never hear about them in football. Nope. St. Lawrence. You never hear about. I mean, most of the schools they play are private schools they can recruit, but they don't do a Mount Carmel.
And this is the bad thing. All these rules have been changed from the IHSA. I know Frank Lindsay was talking about it at the press conference. All these rules have changed for really the minority, not the majority. A minority of private Catholic schools or private schools in general are the dominant schools that are taking over all of football, not other sports really, but just football. The majority of the schools are really taking the punishment for what the minority schools are doing.
Okay, so prediction time. I say
quarters.
I say Mount Carmel semis. Mount Carmel semis.
I'll put them in the quarters.
Quarters?
Yeah, I'll put them in the quarters. Again, with 8A, I don't know who's going to be bumped up and who's going to be bumped down. It's going to be interesting to find that out. It makes a big difference.
All right, so there you have it, Mount Carmel, team number 6 in our countdown. Getting down to it next time. We're in the top 5. With Eric Seals, I'm Skylar King. We're watching IllinoisPrep.com.